Assalamu alaikum everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Mohsen Nishat and I will be moderating the next segment. These are unprecedented times. You have witnessed in these two videos how organizations, individuals have actually learned the power of uncertainty, how they have learned the power of being together, sympathy, empathy, and synergy, how they have actually leveraged the power of being together and take individuals as well as organizations out of these challenging times which each one of us has been facing, and God knows till what time we will face. But I am accompanied today with our esteemed panelist Fatima from Unilever, Wakas from British American Tobacco or Pakistan Tobacco, and Rizwan Saab from Angro Corp, who are going to share with you their experiences, the way they took out their organizations out of these crises, and some valuable learning to us. So, welcome to all of you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, a warm welcome to you, and then I will move on to initiate our discussion. I think all of you are set. All three are actually there, and they are loud and clear, listening to me. You're able to listen to my voice. Great, G. So I would start from Rizwan Saab from Engro. And as we all know that Engro is a conglomerate. It has diverse businesses starting from food, agriculture, chemical, fertilizers, and these are just few and many more to go. So Rizwan Saab, my first question to you would be that these were unprecedented, challenging times. It is definitely difficult to handle these times for organizations as well as individuals. So how were you able to, in these times, able to create, crack and engage a very high level of employee engagement and satisfaction? Can you share some of your successes during this journey in this particular regard? Over to you, Rizwan Saab. We're looking forward.
Thanks, Mohsen. I think thank you for this opportunity and uh, inviting me to share my experiences during this whole pandemic and crisis. So I think the way I'll respond is how we reacted to the situation, how we responded, and how we are becoming resilient. Right. So the reaction was quick because as soon as one of our colleagues contracted the disease, so we had to really take action. So in first 48 hours, we had to react to the situation, that how we look at this thing, right? So the first thing was to really send our people back home and really start planning that how and what needs to happen. So I think in that quick 48 hours, we came up with additional protocols at our sites, how to handle employee questions. So all that was done in first 48 hours. We came up with clear communication with our employees. As CEO spoke to our people, and then we went into the response stage. So when I say response stage, so I'll divide that into three different buckets, right? So first was when I'm looking back, so I think how we responded to it, I can really put it into three different buckets. So I think care, courage, and connection. So when I say first thing was care, right? So how we are looking at employee safety, health, and well-being, right? So that was the first reaction from us. All the indication, all the research, all the experiences globally were telling us that it will have health issues for people. So how we address that, right? So that was the first thing which was as part of our response. So we created a help desk for our people. It was 24/7 help. It was one-stop shop for all of our employees. We brought more medical help, so the doctors were available 24/7. We knew testing will become an issue in the country, so we arranged testing facility with the labs in Pakistan, in all over Pakistan. Then we knew that once colleagues get exposed, so the families will become vulnerable as well, right? So how we'll address that? So that was part of our initial response and communication to the employees. Then medical facilities. So we have sites where we have medical facilities available, quarantine facilities. So we invested immediately in those areas to really ensure that employee health and safety is paramount. It'll become paramount, right? And then we came up with detailed SOPs for our sites because I think when we in first 48 hours we realized that our businesses are essential to the economy. We are in food security, we are in power, we are in providing gas to the country and raw materials for essential industries, connectivity vertical. So all these things were beyond commercial reasons for us to stay operative. So that was very important for us while we responded to this whole thing. So in the care element, I think once we got into it, so mental health became one of the key topics for us. So how we address, because people had health and safety issues, people working from home, so they were vulnerable to multiple things. So we signed up with consultants, we created sessions, there's individual help available for people. Then I think the next bucket was courage, right? So we had to take some courageous decisions. We announced that there'll be no layoffs for people. We had to invest additional to build capacity or to build facilities, so we invested. And I think the other courageous decision was to really stay connected with the employees on a regular basis, right? So the third thing was real-time connection with the employees. So we were open in communication. CEO went ahead, he spoke. Then leadership were doing their virtual town halls, and there was a pulse check which was initiated. A survey was initiated immediately to really get the pulse from people wherever we see more help is required. So we went ahead, and then we created a digital app for our people as well. It was to really contact tracing, to really look at if people are traveling, so who they are meeting, so how we will address if somebody exposed to disease. So I think that was response it was quite comprehensive in next 3 to 4 months. Now it has become very regular BAU work for us. When I say BAU, business as usual, right? So people understand if they need help, how to get that help, and how to come and go operate in their sites. So how we're looking at future, I think that's very important. We realize that future.
Rizwan Saab, yeah, if I can just take the liberty of just stopping you right here, we will move on to the future elements just in few minutes. Just let me, and I'll come back to you. Thanks for your response. So 3 C's, powerful, amazing the way your company has handled. I'll just stop you here and move to few other panelists, and then we'll come back to you. So thank you, Rizwan Saab. So Fatma, so you work for Unilever, which is a consumer goods, lots of interesting brands from food to personal care and home care, etc. And in these, as I understand, in these organizations, it's imperative to balance out sometimes businesses as well as employee needs, but it is on the same end extremely difficult. And in these unprecedented times, what I would like you to ponder upon is on two things. How have you actually created that balance between business needs and employee needs on one hand, and then how have you been able to create, or Unilever has been able to create value and be more choiceful in the work they did in these challenging times? Fatma.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rizwan. Sorry, Mohsen, I hope I'm audible by all. Just a thumbs up would be okay. Can you hear me? Okay. I think, if you speak to any organization today, they will say that during these times, the biggest priority that they've had on their mind is managing people. Single-minded proposition. Yeah. And everyone has put people ahead of business in all circumstances. And I think Unilever as an organization did no differently to exactly what my former speaker was talking about, similar steps on that. I'm going to spend a bit of time, in fact, talking about easement, and now talking about, as we are talking also about returning to our workplace. So previously it was working from home, now it's returning to workplace, and we call it in Unilever easement. What are some of the considerations that we need to keep in mind, and why is it very important, and how are we really balancing people, business and well-being? I think that's a critical element.
Yeah.
So needless to say, I think, now that easement is happening, lockdowns are coming down, we are trying to go back to some sense of normality, or some people call it new normal, some people call it next normal. We still cannot keep away the whole people element aside. Yeah. And I think while we are a bit eager to go back to being, into the space of physical connectivity, and of course, it's got its advantages in terms of the culture, in terms of the creativity that it brings in terms of the collaboration that happens, the productivity impacts on it, and how it impacts really business on a financial sense. I think we need to keep in mind how to manage the whole people and the well-being element key in our minds. And why do I say that? Because I think the people who went home and started working from home in March are the same people who are returning to the workplace. And what
Yeah.
is different? Different is that some people are grieving. Yeah, some people have lost their loved ones. Some people have really faced COVID very, very closely and are deeply impacted on it. There are a lot of fear elements going on in people's mind because they've got vulnerable parents at home. A lot of people are child caregivers, and they are worried about what do they do when they come back to work. So I think as organizations, for us, what is extremely critical is that we keep these key employee preferences in our mind and see how do we balance the business and the people element. Because like I said, people priority will continue to be number one because COVID has not gone away. And we've seen that people have a lot of fear of a second phase, etc., happening. So it will continue to be top of our mind till we, really have a vaccine for this. So in order to make sure that we balance the easement process and make sure we keep business in the center stage, what Unilever has done is we've come up with a very extensive easement protocol, which talks about first looking at a gating criteria to manage and look at external parameters, internal parameters in terms of health, in terms of government statistics to make sure whether it is safe to get people back to work. When we get people back to work, and as a country, we may have moved to tier 3 or even tier 2 according to WHO definitions. But at our workplace, we make sure that we continue to implement tier 4 safety and protocols, yeah, to make sure that we are very much on the safe portion and not negligent about the protocols that we bring. So very strong protocols in terms of safety, etc. How do we make sure that our buildings, our HVAC, our systems, our protocols are all number one? How do we make things contactless? How do we do health screenings? How do we have return to work apps to make sure that we are tracking people's health? How do we come up with applications where if you come into contact with someone with 6 feet distance, there's a buzzer that rings on your phone and there is an
Wow.
automatic contact tracing that is done to make sure that that is there. And employee preference has been given center stage. So anyone, of course, who is got a vulnerable parent at home, anyone who's got children who need daycare facilities, anyone who has children who is doing homeschooling or not keeping good health themselves is definitely not allowed to come into work. All this coupled with a lot of conversation around well-being, well-being champions, well-being support at workplace, and overdose of communication is what is allowing us to really balance the easement phase and make sure that we bring business and people impact foremost in our mind. So I'll stop there because I know I've overextended my 2.5 minutes. Maybe I can take the second question in the second round.
Okay, great. Thank you, Fatma. It's very good to heartening to listen to easement and a lot of other employee well-being initiatives. I feel that that actually put back that energy and zeal into your employees to actually work wholeheartedly and deliver whatever is the organization expecting back from them. So thanks for your thoughts. Moving on to Vakas, who is from British American Tobacco. And Vakas, my question to you would be that how in these challenging times you have been actually able to crack that commercial value and motivation in employees and leveraging technology at the same time. I heard a lot of good stories about your organization dwelling into these three areas in these unprecedented times. So would like to hear from you your thoughts on these things. Over to you,
Thank you very much,
Vakas.
Mohsen. I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah, great,
Perfect.
loud and clear. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Rizwan and Fatima, for setting the context. I think you've made my job easier. So I'm probably just going to restrict myself to how we managed to turn this crisis into an opportunity for PTC. I want to start off with a very small point around scale and complexity. And I think both Rizwan and Fatma would probably be able to relate to it. That bigger the scale and magnitude, the higher the level of complexity and the higher the level of difficulty in embedding the change across a very big, well-oiled machine, which is working very well in normal circumstances. And that's exactly what stuck us as PTC. We have 3,000 people out there in the two factories producing millions of sticks every day. We have 3,000 feet on the streets selling to about 500,000 retailers out there. Great business, market share is fine. And then suddenly one fine morning you're hit by COVID and you have no clue how you're going to produce in a factory with a 6 feet distance with as less as 15 to 20 people on a line. We had no clue how are you going to sell out there in the market with 40% of your retail outlets closed. Yeah, you had no clue how long this is going to last, and is this something that we have to deal with for the next couple of weeks or months or years. Yeah, so a lot of huge stakes and a lot of complexity to deal with. If we could move to the next slide, I'm just going to take you through very quickly what are some of the things that we have been doing. So while this was a crisis, I think the light side of this crisis is that this gave us a lot of space and time to think and lead. Yeah. Now, in these these are unprecedented times, and obviously, in these circumstances, it is very important to get the team together. It is very important to get innovative ideas from people, and trust me, we're not one of those businesses which is very high on innovation. I can probably relate that more with Unilever or Angro, but we're in a very traditional business where innovation has a very limited role. How do you, and then the softer elements around empathy and communication and the execution in the market. So there are three big heads that we worked on. I think we call these the enablers. And obviously we start with technology and connectivity, which to me is the easier part. This is your hardware, which you can buy, which you can create, and which you can set up. And here you're talking of new ways of selling, home delivery system, or going on the back of already established channels and platforms like Daraz and so on and so forth, setting up your own e-commerce business. But where the real challenge came in, and what I call the test of leadership, is how do you lead the team in these times? So how frequently do you appreciate, and that too virtually? How comfortable are you to express your vulnerability and give the impression to the team that we are in it together? It had been an extremely emotional journey for us, Mohsin. We had our factories closed down, if I'm not wrong, probably about 4 or 5 times. We've lost people. We've come across emotional situations where our employees lost their loved ones. There was a lot of pessimism and confusion, I would say, and that's where the duty of care and empathy becomes extremely important. Our narrative to the organization was that your safety is of prime importance. We are willing to give up any amount of business, but we're not going to compromise on your safety. If we have to stay home and produce nothing and sell nothing for 1 year, we are willing to do that, but we will not compromise on your safety. So that was one big commitment. I think the second big commitment is exactly what Rizwan was alluding to. A bit of a sense of security that we're not going to lay off people. And that honestly put a lot of people at ease. And then obviously helped creating a bit of optimism. This was, to my surprise, honestly, in 6 months, I think we connected with 6,000 people about 15 or 18 times. Usually you do the employee connect sessions once a month. So extensive communication, giving the team a bit of a comfort, and that is what helped us deliver some outstanding results in half one, despite all the challenges.
Great, Vakas. So it's heartening to listen to you that complexity, scale, empathy, and a lot of good efforts has actually gone behind in putting these results, I'm sure. So hats off to you and your team. So now what I would like all of us to dwell on to, and whoever is attending, who are our esteemed audiences also, it's your time. If you look at here in the screen, you will look that there is a chat box here, and now you can put you have listened to various numerous perspectives from three esteemed panelists. It's time for you audiences now put up your perspective, comments, things which you feel have kept you motivated, bothered you, do you think can further be improved, and just write, just start writing, and then we will move on to take certain more comments. And panelists, while people are writing, I am sure that you will be able to see the comments box. If you can also look at them, and after this I will give you a shout, and you can pick up some of the important vital comments which you feel are very essential or beneficial for whoever is listening to it, and can then give your further comments on it. But let's take a 2 minute for the audiences to write their perspective. Audiences, please shoot.
Mohsen, there are already some very interesting questions in the box. So maybe we can
Yes.
start by answering some of those.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
Fatma,
as we
I think pick up one. Yes, while people are writing, yes, pick one comment which you have loved the most. Over to you, Fatma.
Yeah, so I'll pick up the one where people are asking whether, continuing to work from home is really going to be a part of the new normal. And is there really a need to look at this option, considering that there is considerable saving around cost, etc. So I'll pick up that one. I think that's a great point. And I think when we do a bit of a future gazing, the trends that are coming up is that talent is now not really going to be restricted around headquarters, but will definitely be more virtual. And what organizations are broadly talking about is virtual hybrid models. That means some people will come into workplace and some people will continue to work from home, because there are some very definite benefits around higher productivity sometimes for people both jumping out of the office, around a lot of cost saving, commute, etc. that is there. I think the only comment over here is that we need to balance this out along with the benefits of people connectivity, social cohesion, shared purpose within the workplace, and what impact does this really have on the tenets of forming culture within an organization. So yes, we will be definitely seeing more hybrid models, and this is coming out of the reasons like the audience has mentioned. It is coming out of cost saving, it is coming out of better productivity, it is coming out of the fact that now we've got proven statistics to see you can work from anywhere and still continue to work. And it also throws us some brilliant opportunities, because I think we are not restricted in terms of sourcing talent. Yeah, look at the session today. Yeah, we've got people joining from different parts of the world. So the whole opportunity of working hybrid has allowed us to access talent from different parts, from gig economies, from wherever they are best suited to the organization. And also, I think learning has become a clear leveler for a lot of organizations because of ease of access. So virtual hybrid models is something that organizations will see more of. And the biggest challenge over there will be how do we balance the culture of tenants, the tenants of culture, to make sure that people working from home and people working from office will feel equally engaged, equally empowered, and equally committed to the shared purpose of the organization.
So, Mohsen, I'll pick something from the questions as well. I think we don't have a lot of time, so I'll see that how try and sum it up in a couple of minutes. So it's basically reskilling for future, right? So reskilling for new normal. So what are those things, right? So what we did, we re-looked at our leadership competence model, right? So we picked certain things from that model where how to handle ambiguity, right? So for future, what are the skills required for people to really stay at work, right? Critical thinking. If I sum it up, I think there are 4 or 5 things which people really need to see, right? So how to handle crisis, creativity, entrepreneurial decision making, right? Emotional intelligence. So these things become important for our leaders in future. So we are putting a lot of emphasis in our future focus, right? So how to handle these things. Then on the digital side, there's more investment from our side. We're looking at how we use AI for better decision making for our businesses. How we create internal marketplace where we break the work and we create agility in the organization. So 3, 4 people can do the same work. So gig economy or gig workers in our organization, right? So we're looking at all different options to really see that how we are ready for future. So I say future has come to present, right? Because the things we were to do in next 2 to 3 years, we have to start doing it today, right? So agility in the organization, flexible working, thinking differently. I think that's really required in today's normal. So let's stop here. If there are more questions around it, I think we can get a little more insight.
Yeah, I'll probably pick a very difficult one, which I will not be able to answer honestly, but I'll give it a shot. There's a bit of a trend that I see around, how does this impact my job security? How does this impact my remuneration going forward? And how does this impact my development in the new world? So look, as I said, I don't have an answer to this offhand, because this is really going to depend on how well your organization or your business is able to sort of draw the line between the commercial aspects and the emotional aspects of people well-being. So I know it is a very thin line and it is a very debatable area, but at the end of the day, we are in a company because we deliver commercial results. Yeah, there are very few companies out there which would survive without any commercial aspects. But look, in my humble view, I think the world has completely changed and it will continue to evolve. We've not had any face-to-face classroom training for last 7 months now, or 8 months, and we won't have that for the next 6 months either. So the role of digital learning becomes very big, and one of the aspects of digital learning is that the onus of development lies completely on you. You can actually sort of log on and then go to sleep and nothing will happen, or you could actually get a lot of value out of a digital learning intervention. Reward and remuneration, I think we all understand this is market driven. Obviously performance has some element in terms of differentiation, but we all know the direction in which the market is moving in terms of annual salary increases. So this is something beyond your control, to be fair. So I would not worry too much about that. Job security, last point. I think it is important that you skill yourself up to make yourself relevant to the market and functions within your existing employer, because it is a threat. Nobody can put up their hand and say that, look, if this continues for the next 5 years, there are going to be no job losses. These are uncertain times, these are unprecedented times, and we have to be prepared for all eventualities. And that's obviously my personal view on this.
Right. Mohsen, if it is okay, I'd like to pick up one of the questions which has been posted. I think it's a very interesting one, that which initiatives are going to be successful in helping us increase employee effectiveness and business delivery in this situation. I think, and it also kind of connects to the question you had asked me earlier. I think clearly, they say that whenever the ground is shifting, it is important that we balance speed, cost, and resilience to the best way possible that we can impact business delivery in a positive sense. And I always believe that you can get visible in results, and I think this is a bridge opportunity to bring both together. I think as businesses and as professionals and leaders, we need to pivot towards real things which will give us real-time value and growth without causing zero job loss. And I think that should be a mantra, and that will help both business as well as people in the positive direction. In Unilever, this is something that we have done very well. We've used the agile way of thinking to identify priorities which are going to be key for the organization in terms of value addition. And then we have moved our resources towards those priorities, because you have to be mindful of your choices at this point in time. Cost is a key consideration. Cash is a key element coming into play. So how do we rebalance our rhythm and our resources to make sure that the allocation is pragmatic and it is giving us maximum value for the business is very important. So at times we need to shelve things, at times we need to start and accelerate the pace of implementation on certain projects. So as leaders, please reprioritize, rethink what you're doing, and channel your resources accordingly. And why do I say agile methodology is a great way to do it? It allows you to identify value projects which are going to really help the organization. Secondly, if you don't have the resources, it allows you to set up scrum teams, etc., where you can put in a rhythm to result in delivery. And then what you can work towards is a minimal viable product that you deliver. So you don't have to aim for perfection. You get to perfection in steps, but you have a process in place where you keep on experimenting and make sure that you come up with a product which is perfected, and hence that minimum viable product, the minute it is perfected, will result in huge value. So reprioritize what is there as a business requirement, strategic delivery based on the value it's going to give you, and then resource it the way you want to, keeping in mind your cost and people considerations. And if the business grows, people grow, and when they work on meaningful things, people find more value, they find more purpose. We are very big about working on purposeful items in Unilever, and we've seen that productivity doesn't drop. So those are just some of the suggestions.
So thanks a lot, Fatma. I think these are a lot valuable comments, and we can go on and on. There is so much to learn from all of you, listen, get practices from you, but time is definitely of the essence today. There are a lot of great panelists and speakers following us. So I will just stop here. What I have heard from all of you are these key things which we all can take away. And these are that if we create balance, focus, so what we can do is that focus create value. We should keep our eyes and ears closer to our employees, create that magic in them through filling them with well-being initiative, safety initiative, having putting their back trust on them, and leveraging technology and digital change to our advantage also. And if we do this and coupled with a lot of other things, some of the very nice comments the audiences have also put in, I think that as we have come a long way, we will definitely do that magic and create that future which we all deserve as being human and as being human resource professionals. So thank you all for a very active participation. A very good luck to you for your future. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz. Pakistan Zindabad. And now what I would like to do after this panel is discussion is over is to move towards a very good video of Shell, which they have also put together for the audiences to showcase what they have done in these challenging and turbulent times. So let's play that video, enjoy, and take the learnings forward.
Hello, everyone. Very warm welcome once again. And I hope you enjoyed the last segment. We are now going to discuss the technology part. And as you understand, it's a technology which basically differentiated this crisis from the previous one. Previously, the crisis used to put the people into pockets of isolations. But I think this time, the physical distancing was converted into a social cohesion. You would have never witnessed this kind of close proximity in the absence of the technology. We are fortunate to have two industry expert CEOs with us. Mudassir Aqil, who leads Telenor Microfinance Bank, and Harun Kant, who is country head Teradata, Global Consulting Center, Pakistan. Mudassir and Harun, welcome. We would like you to share with us how you enable this success for the overall industry, economy, and the country. So I would like to ask you the question. In the first instance, Mudassir, your organization is well dispersed throughout the country in terms of your clientele and your people. Now, communication was a big challenge, but as a as a technology company, how did you convert this challenge into an opportunity and sustain this crisis?
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be part of the HR Summit. HR fraternity is very close to my heart. I also feel part of this fraternity because part of my career I've served in CHRO role also, so I can fully understand the challenges and empathize with them, and also understand the power of this role as well. So before I answer your question, let me put things in a little bit of perspective. So I think we are framing our conversation today more so in the context of COVID-19 and its impact and how technology can help and possibly can be a disruptor also. So there are two things which are happening in the world, and they're sort of like coinciding. The first thing is that we are all aware that how COVID-19 has completely disrupted the global economy. And this has been a crisis that nobody had created any kind of business continuity plan for. So everybody had to like think on their feet and come up with solutions to it, including the or HR leadership, because people part is, of course, is the most important part of the equation. The second thing, which was also already had started to happen over the last 10 years, and it has now exponentially increased, is the advent of what we call the fourth industrial revolution, which is what we call the digitalization of the global economy. So in Pakistan is still in the early stages of adopting the technology-based disruption to business models and adoption of digitization of our economy. But I think with the COVID-19, it sort of like accelerated the whole adoption of it. So in this context, technology becomes both an opportunity and enabler. So when you're dealing with the COVID-19 kind of a crisis, how do you use technology to get people to work together? How do you use technology to communicate better with them? How do you use technology to dispel uncertainty and at the same time try to figure out that how business is not suffering? So more collaborative work and work from home and all of the things that everyone is dealing with. And the other part is also that technology at the same time is now presenting opportunities to completely rethink the way business is done. So right on the heels of it is technology is also coming and disrupting the business model. So when we will return, and Pakistan already, mashallah, is slowly beginning getting back to normalization, we all are aware in our organizations that we are not going back to the same world that we had in 5 months ago. So now everybody is looking at their business models and saying, well, I mean, things can be done so much more differently by employing technology. So the role of HR in this case, and this is what we have experienced also and what I've been practicing as well, is how to use, number one, first of all, communicate. What's the way forward? Bring people together, give them clarity on what's the roadmap, and then also be a facilitator of change. So they should not, HR leaders should not be sitting on the sidelines and then looking at what business is doing. Rather than they should be taking an active part in understanding the strategy and then forming that communication part with the people as a first step. And then the second step is that in this new world, then how will we manage people differently? How will we recruit them differently? How will we retain them differently? So that, in a nutshell, is the new context, in my opinion. So I'll take a pause here.
Okay, brilliant. Well, we'll come back to you. So, Harun, business continuity planning and its execution, I think it's a key success factor to survive the crisis. From the people management point of view, please share the tips of your success, because Teradata is a technology company. So how have you leveraged, and what is your strength in this area?
Thank you, Zaid Saab. Thank you for the opportunity of being part of this. As Akil Saab said, the HR fraternity, which is it's great to hear the views that I heard from the FMCG panel as well. And I think before I start off answering you, we need to understand that the statement that is given and normally kind of taken for granted is that with every challenge, there's always an opportunity attached to it. Pakistan, over the period of last 10, 15 years, has been going through a lot of challenges, and technology companies who are operating in Pakistan have been trying to overcome those challenges and have developed tools and methodologies and practices to ensure that we're able to deliver seamlessly to our customers within Pakistan and outside Pakistan as well. And that training, that learning has built that resilience in our people. And I think that has been the key element in ensuring that we continue to deliver successfully, even when we went completely offsite and 100% work from home. So, and this resilience is not about having plans, having a business continuity plan, having a disaster recovery plan. It's not about having those plans. It's about the ability of that organization, of its people, to adapt to a change that comes as a result of whatever the reason is, whether that is terrorism, whether that is COVID or anything else, or a natural disaster. So I think that is what has been one of the key elements that we have been trying to inbuild in our organization, in our processes, in our in addition to all those collaboration enablement that has happened, that normally happens very quickly in a technology company. But this element of building that resilience to become adaptable to a change, an unprecedented change, has been something that actually worked in our favor. And nothing on us. It's been the Pakistan's previous 10, 15 years of challenges that made us resilient to that change that came in as a result of COVID.
Wonderful. So you said that you're using these challenges to as a real opportunity. And I think more precisely, the kind of the challenge that you face in Islamabad, it makes you more stronger. And you use a very interesting slogans also to handle those crises. I'll come back to you once again. I'll refer back to Mudassar. So Mudassar, as a CEO, stakeholders management is a big challenge, particularly in this kind of disruptive communication environment, when you have the pressures from the regulators, the community, the customers, and then you have your people also. So performance management definitely is one of the bigger challenges in this entire process, and not just your people performance, but from every angle, because you have the investors who have various expectations. So in that context, what do you have as a key learning point for the industry, how to behave for the stakeholders management?
Well, I think the key is really communicating with clarity. So no matter who the stakeholder is, even if you're communicating with your customers, if you're communicating with your team, if you're communicating with your board, with your shareholders, you have to give them clarity on where we are, what do we need to do, and if there is any problem, let's be upfront and very clear about it, that here's what's not working, here's a challenge. Even if you're communicating with your customers, if you are going to face some disruption in service, there are some challenges that you're facing, people are just a lot more appreciative and willing to give you a lot more time if you are clear in communicating the expectations. The same goes with employees. So it's really the uncertainty and lack of clarity about what the future holds that creates panic and downward spiral of morale, etc. And I think that's the real key. I would just emphasize err on the side of over communication in times like this rather than under communication.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Harun, you use, I think, very exciting kind of terminologies, which you say, Iman, Ishq, and passion. And since we have the participants from around the globe in this summit, so this the actual translation of it is the belief, love, and the passion for the work to overcome the obstacles. So tell us how you have used this, to handle this crisis, and how you've been able to motivate your workforce to work with the optimum performance.
Great. Well, I strongly believe in this mantra that I have been able to come up with based on the last 2 decades of my working with people. Iman Ishq Junoon is all about faith, love, and passion. Now, I'm more of a revolutionary person by heart, and all these policies and practices and the traditional way of managing people is good to have. It helps you maintain those boundaries under which you keep a check and balance on how the organization works. But the real essence of working with people, and since I have a consulting background and I've worked, with people, and consulting is more about how to ensure people come up with those creative juices and are able to do better than how the organizations are doing. It's very important to kind of motivate those people to be, doing more than what they can do. It's that untapped talent that normally gets kind of hidden up because of the policies and the procedures and the confinements in which people have to work. And I personally believe that if you are able to instill the fact that an individual, if an individual has a faith in the ability that the person has, or the faith in the ability to achieve and an ability to deliver, or whatever they're doing, if they have the faith in their ability to execute on that, and they're able to do it with the love, and in love you are able to go an extra mile in order to, even if we take the worldly concept of love, where we talk about a person who you are really in love with, you go an extra mile to make that person happy. So if you're in love with the work that you do, you will definitely move that extra mile, and you go that extra mile to achieve, because you have faith in yourself, and the way you do it is the passion. So the triangle of love, faith, and passion.
Is there an issue with the voice? Harun, can you hear me? We lost you. All right, Mudassir, I think Harun may be joining us again because he's lost the connection. Not a question, but I leave it to you, your discretion, that you have a wider bank industry, the financial industry in the country, and then is the microfinance industry. And from the people governance point of view, that too, keeping in mind the business continuity. Any tip that you would like to give to the audience?
I think one thing that we all need to be now prepared for is the business models will be disrupted. Mm-hmm. The old way of doing business is not going to work. I'm already looking at in the chat window, and some people have already inquired about what's going to happen. Are there going to be layoffs, etc.? And I think we should be prepared in conceptually, and we need to understand one thing, that anything which is repetitive in nature and not real value added in a process, that those jobs will be gone forever. And this is going to happen in a matter of months. If we're lucky, probably in a matter of 1 or 2 years. But I think it will happen much more faster, because people have understood that technology is not a taboo, it's not scary, and the business models are going to change. So we need to now really understand, in terms of what needs to happen in acquiring new skills, reskilling our existing people, because there will be more jobs that technology will create, but they will be different in nature. And so HR really needs to, HR professionals here really need to understand the value creation process in their business. That's the one thing that I find lacking. I see HR leaders and mid-tier professionals get too immersed in the administrative matters of HR. Those things should be essentially policy driven and empower people on the front line, but they should really understand what we are trying to achieve as an organization, what's the strategy, and then are we prepared for the future. I think that's what everyone should think about. And if they're not thinking, they should compel their leadership to have a dialogue with them in about the future of their company and what it means for them.
Excellent. So what you're pointing out, but I understand that the pattern is changing. There are new skills which are coming up, and there's a new demands, and we have to be conscious of the upcoming trends and adapt accordingly. Okay, thank you so much, Harun. I think you were interrupted, so we would like you to continue your thoughts so that we can go to the question answer session.
My apologies.
No problem,
bad
sir.
connection, technology challenges. So yeah, so what I was trying to tell you was that you need to tap onto the human element. And what organizations have been traditionally doing is trying to create those boundaries in which we want individuals to contribute. But with the new millennial generation that's coming in, confinement is not in their dictionary. So in order to ensure that the way they think needs to be tailored and channeled into an organization's success, you need to ensure that they are ignited. And the best way to ignite, I personally believe, is to give them the faith in, to put some faith in them, give them the ability to learn, to adapt quickly, to love the work they're doing, and at the same time show them the future, which will build up the passion in them to achieve the organization objective. So that is the crux of how this philosophy works. Again, it's a very detailed thing, but I think with this change in the way of work that has been brought in, and I like to add something to what Mudassir Saab has mentioned before, and I just like to quickly add there, is the fact that, and a lot of questions have been put around it, this is still a time where a lot of assessments are being done. We cannot at this point in time claim to the fact that work from home is going to be the absolute new norm, whether offices are going to be closed and people are going to be shifted to home. It's still evolving, we're still learning. And all of this information that we're collecting over the last 3 to 4 months are going to help decision makers come to a point, I believe in the next 2 to 3 months, to see how the new organization phase will look like.
So the new perspective that I'm getting over here from your side is that because historically we see most of the people evaluating and assessing the millennials, and you're talking about the focusing on their not just weaknesses, but the strength, in order to get the best out of them. All right, interesting discussion. With this, we would like to have a further round of dialogue, and for that matter, I would request all the participants to put their comments in the chat box. Please write your views, all kind of opinions, and I would also request the speakers to please keep an eye on the chat box and feel free to comment. Feel free to share your opinion according to the viewpoint of the participants. So participants, please go ahead. Have your say in this summit, and it's an opportunity to get in touch with each other and learn from each other. You have 2 to 3 minutes for this.
I think there are a couple of interesting comments being made. So if you like, I can take on a couple of them while people are still typing. So I think one question is on comp and benefits, so how they will change. And then there is another interesting comment on employee engagement. So yeah, so real quick, I think there will be increasingly larger role of outsourcing of work from organizations. So anything which is not your core competence, I think increasingly will be outsourced, because if your own employees can do that job sitting at home, then essentially anyone can do it. So if it's not the core competence to the business that you're in, you can always find someone who can do it probably faster and cheaper, because they will be doing it for a lot of companies at a much higher volume. And a lot more economically. So that will have an impact on how you will compensate your people. So you will have people who will be and getting the job done, probably in collaboration with outside consulting and various other outsourced employees. So people who will be inside the organization will be a lot more knowledgeable and a lot more resourceful in terms of achieving the end objective by utilizing the various resources at their disposal within and outside the organization. So that's broadly one thing that I see. The another interesting, I think, question somebody raised was the value creation model. I think that's a very broad subject, but a gap that I see all the time in the HR fraternity in Pakistan, at least, is that they don't really conceptually understand that what the business that their organization is, in that business, how real value is created and who is creating that real value. So a lot of time they're really sort of looking at the CEO to tell them what to do, and not advising the CEO in terms of, these are the gaps that we see in terms of the critical talent who is, important for the strategy and important for the value creation. And here are the gaps, and here's, how we should manage them differently. So that consultative role and strategic role of HR will only come when people will realize that, how real value is created. So
Excellent. I'll pick up that thread from your conversation with us, sir. In fact, ability. So usually people have a lot of concern when they think that, and they come to know that they're losing jobs, where actually job does not mean the practitioner job. Job also means consulting job. So that means that if you are outsourcing a business, you would like to give it to some of the organization, which also creates an opportunity. So I would like to refer this thread of question to Haroon, and let us know that how this technology is creating, opportunities for the people in terms of the jobs creation, and what are the kind of the jobs that are coming into the market.
See, there will always be jobs in the market. The nature of the job will change. The skill required to do that job will change. Now, if we are not able to reskill ourselves, re-enable ourselves with new skills, we will always see a deficiency in the market in terms of the jobs that you want to do. So the change has to, that's why I said resilience is is the ability to change. So if we want to be resilient in these times, it starts from us. We need to change our skills. In our organization, we made it very clear that if somebody or anybody in the organization in these COVID times, having ample amount of time because of the less commuting and other barriers, has not been able to develop one alternate skill, has actually failed to capitalize on this time that has this COVID has provided. So
Excellent.
It's extremely important that you have to bring in the change in yourself. You will not be doing the job that you did 6 months back, period. If you want to accept it, fine. If you don't, then it's your choice. I like to take one question that was put up in this on the side panel, and it said that, is the future of HR more on the consultancy side? You know, it's an evolutionary process now. There are HR experts here, and they can comment much better on it. But from the head of the organization, I can let you know one thing very clearly. My organization is around 450 people, and I have only one HR person who is running and maintaining the entire organization relationship from an HR perspective. Why? Because now the new philosophy that we're trying to follow is to devolve people, devolve the HR aspect of the work onto the managers. Because what we used to do traditionally was to consolidate and create an organization which used to do talent management, succession management, change management, and all of those elements were done by the central organization. Now we are devolving that. We're giving that responsibility and ownership to the line managers. And HR is in reality becoming more of an owner of the framework under which organizations are working. So yes, in a way, consultancy is and can be classified as one of the futuristic models, that HR becomes more of a consultancy and the actual execution happens by the line managers, from the ownership to the delivery part of it.
Brilliant. So Mudassir, you are the complete disruption and the new business model. How do you see the performance management of the people fitting into that model, particularly when you have the people working from home? And within that segment, you have also the females, a significant proportion. I think it's also one of the focus of your organizations, how they adjust in this model performance. Do you have some insight on that?
Yeah, I think, one thing that I'm already contemplating, I find very little value anymore in setting the annual appraisal process. I think the annual appraisal process is dead. It adds very little value. And I think we need a very simple quarterly conversation. There should be a clear strategy which takes a 3-year view. You adjust it on an annual basis, on a rolling basis, and then you take sort of like a quarterly priorities and you align with your team in terms of, okay, these are the must-win battles for the quarter are these 3, and then you check your calibration with the strategy. So I think unless you fix it at the top, you can't really manage an effective performance management in the lower ranks either. So this is probably more relevant for the CHROs who are listening today, that they should really make that case of realignment at the top with the strategy, and then those performance discussions will become meaningful. Otherwise, these annual performance appraisals, I don't think are really relevant anymore.
So it's more ongoing and real time rather than with a time lag. Perfect. Okay, yeah. We have 2 more minutes before the closing. I would like to leave it to the judgment of the speakers to pick up at least one question if they wish, and may like to respond to it before we conclude.
If I may just quickly pick up, and Mudassir Saab, please do add to this question, that to the answer here. The question is that, how would you measure and do performance management for people who are working from home versus people who used to work in the office? So my take on this, and please add to it as well. is that first of all, the performance management, the traditional performance management is no longer valid. It was no longer valid a couple of years back, but now in these times, it's absolutely not valid. So frequent conversations, periodic conversations, setting down short-term goals, which are aligned to your long-term strategic objective, are the key to, key to the performance management of your team members. It's extremely important that you have the ability to listen and to communicate, and that needs to happen on either a monthly, quarterly, whatever is the frequency based on the type of business you are in. So there is no single rule of thumb. A quarterly would work, or a half yearly would work, or a monthly would work. It depends on what kind of a business you are in. But what is important is that the tools that are needed in order to ensure that this conversation happens need to be put in place. Digitization of the process needs to be put in place. And that's the key in order to ensure that there is transparency and there is a uniformity of the way in which it is executed in the organization. Well, this is a
excellent.
No, I think
Yes,
very well put. I don't have much to add. I think Haroon hit the nail on the head. I think from an HR practitioner standpoint, you have to design these systems which are very simple. Just 2 or 3 things that need to happen, and just give very effective, detailed feedback on it, and frequent conversations. How will you facilitate that? Allow people to use all of these technology tools, whether they're sitting at home or at work, so that they can communicate effectively. I think that's the key.
Excellent. I think this is a very interesting dialogue, but time is always a challenge. So with this, we would like to conclude. And before conclusion, I would like to just summarize. We had a very interesting overall conversation, but the 2 main themes which emerge out of this process, Mudassir Aqil, definitely he's in favor of the complete disruption. Change is already taking place, and we have to go with the change. So technology is a force multiplier for managing the workforce. From the Haroon Khan's point of view, your Iman, Ishq, and Janoon, which he calls belief, love, and passion, are the pillars to overcome any obstacles. So with this, we are going to conclude. Thank you all for your valued participation. I'm once again thankful to the Mudassir and Haroon for sparing their valuable time and being with us to educate us on this important aspect. With this, we would also like to play the shared video again, because it was aborted, and we would like to see you to see it completely. So Mudassir and Haroon, thank you so much. All the best. Take care of yourself.
All the best to all the friends here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Fasi Mehta, and it's time for a coffee break. Those of you who want to go for a prayer, take a short break, please go, do so. Make God happy. For those of others here who want to share some passion, and this time a passion probably coffee and music. I heard that you can create some music with just a coffee cup. Should not be full, by the way. I don't want you spilling over hot coffee on your laptop or your clothes. But if you just do something with the spoon, you can create certain noise, which can even translate into music, some good rhythm. Those of you who believe you can create some enchanting music using your coffee mugs and a spoon, please join us. Share in the chat. Let's bring you on stage. And during this break, let's also, while you're sipping coffee, you're having tea, you're going for a short prayer break, whatever makes you fresh, those who want to stick around, let's play some music. So who's up for the challenge? Let's see. Come on, guys. We need volunteers. Show the creative side. Oh, you don't like tea. Fair enough. But everyone likes music, right? And let's have some more creative ways to create a music. Yeah, sure. So we have Amber saying so. Okay. Can we bring Amber online? On the stage, please? Good. Muffins are great. Muffins, coffees, cookies, biscuits, whatever clicks. Let's see. Go for something else. Yes, yes, it is a break. Anas, this is a break. This is the HR Summit that you have joined. We have a 10-minute break, after which we will resume. And during this time, Anas, if you want to stick around, wait for the summit to start. We will be creating some music using a coffee mug and a spoon. You don't have to have coffee. You need to have just the creative, the germs inside to do something different. And you need a mug and a spoon. Okay, any other option? You have any other option to create music? By something that is around? Let's do this. So we have Amber online. Let's do it. Gee, Amber. Come on, can I have more people joining in? Let's join the rhythm. Good, good. I'm trying to catch up to the rhythm though. It's a bit difficult for me.
Okay, so what we can do, Fasi, is like, we can plan something like we will do together 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we can have more people around with us.
Yeah, come on. Who wants to join?
Yeah, and we can create more rhythms.
Yeah, let's do that. Join in, guys. Whoever wants to join in, just right there. Okay, Furqan. Can we bring in Furqan online on the stage, please? Thank you. Who else? In the meanwhile, Amber, let's continue with the rhythm.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, who else is joining in? What other music can we change the rhythm a bit, perhaps, to make sure that there is more interest from more people? And if you have any other way, all these wonderful people in the audience,
you can do with cup, and I can do with clap.
Oh, brilliant! Let's do that.
Yes, we can synchronize this way.
Go for some humor. Why don't you crack the joke, Hafiz? Let's do that as well.
Yes. We can have 2 spoons as well. I do have bottle as well.
Let's try with a bottle.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. Different music coming, huh?
Yes.
So, how many of you can create music with lots of things that are around you? Whatever you can find, if you're sitting in your office, in your kitchen, or you're sitting in your bedroom, just go and find something. Just grab hold of something. Let's create that.
As well.
Yeah, I hope the screen doesn't broke and you have a good protector on. Yeah. Yeah, jingles. Let's do that, Vasif. Okay, sure. So Omer says that Amber should continue with the spoon and the cup while I need to clap. Okay, I'll join you. Go ahead. Let's take this suggestion. Go ahead. 5 more minutes, Amar. Hang in there. Okay, we have her on mute. Hang on. More people joining
Assalamualaikum
in.
guys.
Walaikum salam.
So I have a hit word music and I'm very fond of it. So we can do that. Like we can also play music with table as well because that's
Okay.
what I have right now.
Wow.
Yes. So you
Yes.
can, yeah, you guys can follow up with me like with that. We can do that like clap. So I'm doing it with table.
Okay.
Okay.
Do it with clap. I'll do it with cup, and she'll do it
Okay.
with table. Done.
Okay. Done. Yeah, it's working. Yeah. So one more idea came up in my mind like that. When we are starting and joining the rhythm, you stop, I will continue with that rhythm, then your turn is come around and you will create something by fussy, anything in that
Done.
music so that we can have that round and all that.
Done.
Okay,
Done.
let me start. We are starting now.
I'm definitely losing, Rashid. Music is definitely not my forte.
It's your turn. Continue.
I'm creating more noise than music for sure. All right. So before we go further and move on to the next segment, there's also a short video that will be played before that starts. But
Yeah.
before we move on to it, I'm sure all of you have joined in for a reason. And that reason is to learn and to take something back in your daily lives that you can practice and not just preach. And I'm sure that you all are here for those amazing learnings as you hear these amazing speakers with their great insights. They're sharing their pearls of wisdom with you. So while we have almost 4 more minutes to spare, I would like you to just think about what has happened so far. Great things that you have heard that you never heard before, things that or words or statements that inspired you. And you can even write those here. You can even put those in questions and polls as we are having this break. Take those notes of during this break, how would you be more prepared in handling these challenges as we move forward? While you're having coffee and tea, it will be a great refresher for sure. And those who just want to enjoy, carry on with the music, guys.
Okay.
Gee, Nayab and Amber, let's
Yes.
roll. Let's throw in another beat.
Okay. Other beat is I'm doing with the elbow,
Oh,
and you can create with anything like want. So we can do that with clap as well. I'm just taking my table as a prototype so that I'm using it again and again. You can create with Amber. You can do that this as well with your coffee mix so that it can assimilate more and it would sync.
clearly, ladies, you have far more talent than anyone. And I am losing very badly at it.
It's woman empowerment.
Empowerment. Yes, I was about to tell that.
So we are moving on as the break now is coming to an end, and we have a
Okay.
lovely video on K Electric to share, and then move on to the next segment. And in
Okay,
the
see you
meanwhile,
guys.
in the meanwhile, keep watching, keep getting inspired, and look for those actionable insights. I'll join you later in the Q&A section.
Okay,
Cheers, guys.
bye.
Assalamu alaikum and good day, everybody. Hope you all are doing great. Welcome to the banking panel dialogue. Amid all of this turbulence time, we've all come to realize that the future of organization lies with resilient teams and agile working methodology. Like many organizations who shifted on work from home, there were yet some frontline heroes who actually had to come to office ensuring that they answer and serve the customers. And such heroes are one segment of such heroes is the banking sector, where our branches throughout this entire period remain open, and all of the branch staff actually had to be there. Such workforce deserves our utmost respect and lots of appreciation. I am Samiha Ali Zahid, CHRO for Mobilink Bank, and I will be moderating this session today. Today's discussion with our distinguished guest panelists will be around how they turned the odds in their favor and ensured a smooth sail for the people and their organization. Please welcome with me our panelist, Mr. Mohammad Omar, Country Head for Standard Chartered Bank, Ms. Alia Zafar, EVP Head HR for Askari Bank, and Ms. Asma Sheikh, CHRO for National Bank of Pakistan. Asma will be joining us in a little while. So in the meanwhile, we can have that. Thank you, both of you, for joining us and for your time. And I would like to begin with Umar, because Umar, you're the odd one out between the two females right now. So I'd like to ask you, how has the current situation helped you adapt to the future of banking?
Thank you, Samir. I think that's the case in HR, right? And we also worked on DNI a lot, so I don't mind that actually, being the odd one out. Uh, you know, future of banking is digitization. We all know that, right? I think it's more of a ways of working that we would like to change to adopt the future of banking, which is more towards digitization, right? This whole situation, apart from the anxiety, fear that this pandemic created among ourselves, I think it helped us to steer the mindset change that we would like to bring in people in terms of flexible working and working from home,
Very true.
right? So, and because they were forced to work from home, and the apprehensions or the issues that even the line managers or the individual himself have, they did not have any choice, right? So but when they started, obviously organizations responsibility was to facilitate that they can deliver on their objectives, or even in some cases service their clients seamlessly,
Yes.
because the call center people were also working from home in our bank, so they were actually
Wonderful.
dealing with the customers also. I think that this is something that, and obviously the biggest challenge that people would see in working from home or flexible working was the productivity, right? But what we have observed, that the myth that if you are work from home or if you work flexibly, the productivity goes down. That myth was completely untrue, right? And
Right.
during this, after a couple of months, we did a survey in the organization around flexible working and people's preference, staff's preference around flexible working. Lot of people actually wanted to work from home, right? So now what we are doing, actually, we are redesigning our jobs in a manner to see if these jobs can be done from home or flexibly, and what
Excellent.
are the changes that we need to bring in. And uh, this will save a lot of cost for the organization in terms of premises, right?
Very
And
true.
this cost can be reinvested in the technology infrastructure that would be required for people to work from home, right? But we also understand, so this is, and obviously people are saving a lot of time from commuting to work, getting ready
Oh,
for
yeah.
the work, right? So
Absolutely.
and now they have ample time to spend with the families. And this pandemic has one thing that we have learned during this pandemic, is that time is precious. we have seen people around us who were young, healthy, and due to this disease or this virus, they
Yes.
actually lost their lives, right? So
Yes.
people were also very sensitive about it also. So that also, let me tell you one thing, because when we did the survey, actually our ENPS score, which is Net Promoter Score, that people would recommend Standard Chartered to their friends and families to work for, has doubled from last year.
Wow. That's
Right.
amazing.
So the all the actions that we took in during this pandemic time or this difficult time actually changed people's mindset for the organization also. Now they are looking at organization very differently, right? So this is the other thing that we always wanted in the organization, and we invested a lot on that also, the self-learning culture, because we have world-class digital platforms available, right? And we wanted people to go and learn new skills and upskills themselves. I think this pandemic will this situation actually gave them a lot of opportunity or spare time to invest on themselves,
That's an excellent point.
right?
Yes.
And the uptake of these digital platform has actually quadrupled during this pandemic time. And what we did, that we actually had two uh, virtual learning weeks, where we had virtual sessions with people and told them how to use these tools available for learning, right?
That's
So that
that's
is
good.
the other thing which we also realized, that yes, working from home is on one side is a good thing, but it also create little lot of stress in people, because you are not interacting with your line manager, you are not physically meeting people. So we actually introduced employee assistance program, so counseling services to all our employees and their families, because any mental stress that they have, any financial issue they have, any other issue they have within their family or in their family, they can actually go and consult
I think
the,
that's an excellent initiative.
right. The one more thing I think which is very important, that during this time, pe- people manager were not ready or were not equipped how to deal with their staff remotely, right? And we
So
actually
true.
trained them how to manage people remotely. We had multiple sessions with them, right? The other thing which was very important and key in this whole situation was that constant communication with people. I myself used to send out 2 messages every week, apart from the global messaging that was done from the group. And then also it pushed us to, from the client perspective, because clients were also not coming to branches, and businesses were open, they wanted to do transactions. So lot of investment in a very short span of time on the digital platforms to serve our customers better, right? And also enable them to do lot of transactions uh, by sitting at home,
While
not
being
coming
at
to
home.
office, right? See, this
Absolutely.
this change we wanted to bring in, for probably for the we've been trying to do this for the last couple of years. But people, when they have options, they
Yeah.
always opt for the where they feel comfortable, right? So
Yes.
one hypothesis that I had in the beginning came true, that if you really want people to adopt something, take away all the alternatives from them. And this
And I think COVID
pandemic,
did that for us.
actually, it
Yeah.
took away all the alternatives. We did not have any choice. And now what we see is that people have adopted these things which we have been trying for them to adopt for the last 2 years. So all these new, and obviously we have rolled out different tools, and we build on those tools to develop collaboration, teamwork, because through these digital platform that we have.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent effort that Standard Charter has actually done, and hats off to the team. So as Omar, you spoke about, a lot about self-learning. You spoke about care and growth, and you also mentioned that how important it was to upscale the skill set of the people. So continuing with that, taking this thing forward, I'd like to come to Alia now, because I believe Alia has something in her kitty that she's going to take out right now, and she's going to talk about the 4 skill sets that are required for a banking professional of the future. So Alia, over to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here. And Omar, it was actually excellent to hear what Standard Chartered has done. I think a lot of these things we've done at Askari Bank as well. So I think in most of the banking industry after the COVID crisis evolved, the industry needed to rethink strategies around how to get work done and how to serve consumers. And there had been a very steady but slow digital banking transformation. But this pandemic actually catapulted the industry into the future of work almost instantaneously, I think. And I do understand that it's important that to go forward with the new normal. We don't know what the new normal is going to be. But what we know for now, for the last few months, and how it's evolving, it requires the organizations to really transform themselves. And the most successful organizations out of the banking industry will be those where leaders adjust to the changes along with everyone within the bank. And we have already experienced it, but also we need to remain very flexible as to the possibilities ahead. And this actually links with the skill set that we would require as bankers, wherever we may be. So I think there are 4 main elements that we need to sort of consider when we are looking at this. And the first and foremost is having a relationship of being an advisor. Bankers essentially need to have a visionary focus. And how do you have that visionary focus? Bankers need to think out of the box. They need to predict emerging changes, and they need to envision solutions. And this skill is extremely useful in any industry, but particularly so in banking, because bankers need to think out of the box. And when you connect that with the resilience that comes with out of box thinking, it also connects to my second component, where the second skill that we need to have, and that is of analysis, analytical skills. Now, when we talk about thinking out of box, and when we talk about being an advisor to the consumer and also internally, we need to be able to have the focus, and we also need to be able to innovate. So in analytical thinking will actually lead to results. Analytical thinking will lead to our asking questions and leading to responses or answers to those questions. So it's really important as a skill to develop analytical thinking. Now, going forward, and what else do we need? We need to be agile. So how do we become agile? For becoming agile, we really need to know how to re-engineer. So when we talk about digital transformation, when we talk about processes, which is the next step actually into how we transform, the first thing is essentially to be agile requires that we are able to re-engineer. And for re-engineering, we need to be innovative, which I was talking about earlier. And only then we can also be good advisors in any area. And then the fourth element, which is processes. And when we talk about processes, it's really not about creating a process and putting it here, there, and then just being happy about it. The processes and the change in the processes has to be constant, and it has to be through technology. It has to be through data. And this is one of the largest component of skill or reskilling that would be required within banking sector. And also it actually links very closely with the recruitment strategy of a bank as well. Because a lot of times we are very inward looking as an industry. And when we look inward, our digital skills and our technology skills and the data skills are nowhere near what we require right now. So that means that when we are going forward and looking towards the future of banking, we also need to see that we need to bring people into the industry from other industries. We also need to connect. If you're talking about UX or UI designs, or talking about big data or digital or data visualization, we need to think about the people that we have and how we can reskill them, and also the people we can bring in. So from both perspectives, I think it's extremely important that these four skills, that we are the advisors, and we are providing the advisory, we have the analytical skills, we can re-engineer, and we can create processes which are forever essentially dynamic and changing. These are the four areas that bankers really need to think about. And of course, this has the whole overall umbrella of having the industry knowledge. So when we talk about industry knowledge, I'm talking not essentially only of the regulator or knowing your regulator, but you also need to understand what is happening, for example, in fintechs. So successful banking professionals, they need to manage a lot of risks, and they need to have that analytical rigor. And how do they get that? Just like consultants, they need to be able to think and solve problems, predict, avert problems. And all this essentially becomes the umbrella in which we have to work in future.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Alia. Thank you so much. I think both of you have shed light on, you did touch a little bit about the employee stress. And now that the offices are, gradually opening up, is there any one good tip that you would like to give related with stress management? Just one quick tip, if I could ask Umar. A quick tip to the employees for reducing their stress.
I think it's difficult to give one tip, but I think accepting the reality is very important, and adjusting to that reality, right? Because if you live in state of denial, right, that no, COVID is nothing, it will not, or any kind of thing, then you will not be able to adapt to the requirement of the new norm that we are talking, right?
Absolutely.
When you don't
Absolutely.
adapt, then obviously that create anxiety, and that create little bit of frustration, right? So accepting the reality, adopting
And
new norm.
facing it.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. I think, Umar, that's an excellent point. Alia, could you just quickly give a point related with stress or mental health?
Yes, absolutely. I think the first and foremost idea, which I at least, and a lot of our teams here now work on, that's really, you have to have fun at work. It's really not, it's not a job. It's so exciting to come to work, to be able to see the transformation. This is something historic. We are part of a huge historical transformation and disruption, and how we are there as leaders, and in each and every area that we work in, that is the focus that we need to have. What can I bring to the table? And all of us, wherever we are bringing amazing innovations within the industry and within our own banks. And we have so many wonderful stories coming from each and every area from across Pakistan. People coming together, collaborating, creating small teams and working. And that is what actually reduces the stress, because the stress is coming from the unknown. And the unknown needs to be defined, and we need to take it forward. Okay, we know what we want out of this unknown. We know how to steer this ship forward and make it work for everyone. And that requires a constant communication also within HR and outside HR with each other. So that's how it works, I think.
I think excellent 2 points. Face the reality and navigate through it, and then have fun at workplace. We're living in such an unexpected times, and I think we're all coming out of it gradually. So I think that's an amazing point to handle stress. With this, we'd like to move to the next segment on the comments part. Our viewers can see the chat box, and I encourage all of you to write down your comments. And then Omar and Alia, you can also pick a comment and give your perspective on it. So I'm also looking at it, and you can also look or find anything that you find interesting. Sayed Farhan just said, very well said, Ms. Alia, the process improvement in most of the banking sector needs to be explored and adapted for more agile work environment.
And then there is Naya, who says, how do you start uplifting the processes to upskill the company's employees where the motivation is dead in them? So I think this is really important. Motivation comes from a number of areas. So I think that again requires a lot of conversations. What we have done at Askari Bank is that we have been having these conversations. You need to be open first and foremost. You need to be honest and open and fair in your dealings. So how does that work when we talk about the whole of HR interacting with employees? I think the most important thing is that this lack of motivation is being driven by certain factors, and that those factors need to be investigated first, of course. So I do also think that motivation is never dead in everyone. So you have an employee base, and 100% of employees will never be demotivated. There will be 15 to 20% employees who are highly motivated, and they are intrinsically motivated employees as well. So you need to also focus on those employees and create teams utilizing the skills and also the energy of these employees, and create and build those teams and expand them and bring those people in who require to be motivated. And also, I think their sense of purpose needs to be instilled, and that requires, again, working in small teams and creating a purpose, and that purpose can be, when you look at a branch, for example, or a BM and an OM, the purpose is still there, but how that purpose is communicated sometimes goes missing. So creating those links, creating communication channels, which are multiple, and also creating the right type of policies so that you are able to get all the things together.
I would like to pick up two questions actually from here, if you allow me to.
Yes, Umar, why not?
Yeah. Okay. The first question is from Ras Masood, right? What HR can do build a culture of risk management? Yes. I think we have been building a culture of risk management for I don't know for how many years. That's not we have Basel 1, Basel 2, Basel 3, risk management framework, we have controls, we have regulators. I think that's not the challenge. It's not that we need to. I think what we need to do is personal conduct. We need to focus on personal conduct, because if staff conduct is as per the code of conduct, I don't think any issue, we would have any issue. So risk management is already taken care of. It's just that how individuals behave or in the organization, that is important. And let me tell you, this is the most important function for me in AHR, to work on the code of conduct. And let me tell you, we are celebrating a conduct week in the organization, right? So create awareness around all these things which are mentioned in code of conduct. Code of conduct is something which is and the personal accountability, that's something that we need to encourage. And if somebody is breaching it, how we are dealing with it, that is important. The second point is which is, I think,
can I make a comment before you move on to the second one? I'd like to encourage our viewers to post more comments so that our panelists can address them. And also, I just want to add that you said staff conduct is important, Alia said staff motivation is important, and with that, all of these things are contagious. So if you're happy, you radiate that happiness. If you're in a bad mood, you radiate that. So I think it all clubs at workplace, how effectively we can do that. Yes, Omar, over to you. You can pick up the other comment, please.
Okay. I think Ras has actually commented on my comment, so I'll pick up Ras later. I just want to pick up the other point, which is the work-life balance. I think this has been a area of concern for the bankers, right? And when we talk about new, and I agree with that, right? Work-life balance is a challenge in the banking industry, and
Yes.
but personally, if you ask me, I think this is something which is it's an individual's own hand. So organization will not take care of your work life balance because they want you to work and deliver, right? So you have take the responsibility of work life balance in your own hand. But I think what we are talking about, new ways of working, flexibility, working from home, I think that is something which would help us to create a balance between work and life, right? And
True.
work life balance is not going home for 6 o'clock every day, right? So there's a big I think it needs a lot of time, but in my view this new ways of working would definitely help work life balance. Okay, now the other thing Ras has discussed, and I think valid point, this is the concern that we had also. He's saying that working from home would create some issues of risk management. Ras, yes, initially it will, but you need to relook at the processes, right? You need to simplify the processes and also the infrastructure that you have in place, right? For example, let me tell you that we ran payroll from home for 4 months, right? So but I think it needs
That's
lot
a
of,
good example.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it needs little more investment in technology and tools. Yes, there will be a risk initially, but that risk can be mitigated. That's not something which we can't mitigate.
Excellent. Alia, we just have few minutes left. Is there any comment that you'd like to take? Then just the last one.
So yes, there's one by Furkan, how we see the leverage of upskilling or reskilling in the new normal with the perspective for L&D in technology banking. I think this pandemic actually, and to meet the challenges, companies have already started crafting new talent strategies. These are essentially to be focused on developing employees' critical digital cognitive abilities, also their social and emotional skills, because you cannot separate both of them. And that needs to also be incorporated into adaptability and resilience. So mostly the banking industry, I think we have had to really jump on the bandwagon in terms of changing the way we were going through our learning and development processes, bringing in e-learning and having virtual classrooms. But this will have to go much more beyond that now. And this is the time for learning and development professionals to really take the reins in their hands, essentially, because the main focus of all the budgets in terms of technology also remains pretty much focused on the digitalization and the digitization also. So that's why I think it's important for companies to double down on their learning budgets, and they need to commit to reskilling as we speak. Thank you.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I would like to, if you allow me, because two good questions, I would like to respond to that. Right, building on what Alia is saying. Under the new ways of working, the some of the skills which used to be treated as soft skills are actually become core skills,
Yeah.
because like collaboration, innovation, teamwork, empathy, interpersonal skills. So all these skills used to be treated as soft skills or good to have skills, right? But under the new ways of working, these are core skills. Unless you don't have these skills, you would not be able to work under the new norms. The
That
second
is so
point,
true.
yeah, the second point is asked by Amar and Wasim also, that how
Yeah.
much HR, banking HR is ready, future ready for the digital disruption. I can only say about my function or my bank. I think we have invested a lot, right? But I think HR is the last function who would look at how to be future ready. And that's the dilemma. The, the function which will drive this whole thing, or which will drive this whole thing in the organization, is not focusing on upskilling their own people. I think this is something that we need to, I would suggest that please have another summit on this particular topic only.
Topic, yes, I totally agree. Given
Because
given
if you don't upskill yourself as an HR professional, if you are not
True.
aware of what is happening around the world in digitization, you will become obsolete. I'm telling you.
This is an excellent point of actually becoming obsolete, and I think as we reach towards the end of our dialogue, I would actually just like to pose a question to our viewers. Do you look at yourself as a game changer, a disruptor? Are you ready for the next paradigm shift? If the answer is a no, then I'm going to give you some very powerful takeaways from Omar and Alia actually, and that can turn your no into a big yes. So Omar spoke about upskilling. So if you can see the icon here, it's about upskilling yourself. With the availability of the internet, the world is now open to us. And as he said, you'll become stagnant, you'll become irrelevant if you do not upscale yourself. They also spoke about being innovative, about coming up with new things. If you don't come up with new things, somebody else will, and success will be theirs. And the last point that Alia spoke about was to be the change that you want to see. So the only thing between you and your goal, remember, is yourself. With this, thank you, panelists, for the fantastic, thoughtful insights that you've shared today. And it was amazing being the moderator of this panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Umar. Thank you, Umar and Alia.
Thank you.
Viewers, after this, we'll display a video on Telenor, and then there's going to be a question answer session. Thank you. Stay safe, stay blessed. Until next time. Bye bye.
Hi, everyone. So it's me again, Fasi. Thank you so much. So far, what an insightful conversation we've been having. Lots of insights for all of you HR enthusiasts and professionals out there. So this is a networking break. So imagine what COVID has done to us. Normally, when we would say, it's a break time, it's networking, what would we be doing? We will be exchanging our cards, visiting cards. There is no use of a visiting card anymore. Imagine an entire paradigm shift. In a normal networking break, we will crack those cards open. I mean, I would crack mine. It had 2 pieces in it. And hi, I'm Fasi. Pleased to meet you. Who are you? What do you do that? How do you do that when you are in a virtual room like this in a summit? Well, you put up your LinkedIn profile. You share your LinkedIn profile to introduce yourself to others and follow them. How do you follow them? Don't just send an ad request. Put in a small message, how you met them, how you heard their talk at the HR Summit, how you were inspired, and how you want to learn more or be part of this conversation, and probably explore opportunities for collaboration. So let's have your LinkedIn profiles in the chat section, guys. So those of you who want to connect, and there's so many of you online from lots of different countries, different backgrounds, different functional expertise, and different stages in your career, let's have people connect with you. So I would like to see who's putting in their profile links here. There you go. I do see names, but do share your profile link. So this is one of the ways to connect, to explore mutual collaboration areas, to see where people have worked, what they have done, how you can learn from them, how you can potentially collaborate, and crack the conversation open with something that you heard today. That's a good icebreaker. Send them a message. Keep them coming. So far, I've seen few. Great. So while we carry the conversation forward, you keep popping up those LinkedIn profile links in the chat section so people can connect. And as you'll see, there's a poll here as well. So we took certain questions as part of the initial survey when we were actually gathering data, that what are the challenges that the HR world faces these days? And what are those HRM issues that the world wants to know about or wants to solve? And up came these 5 or 6 areas which were of a lot of interest for the professionals, and somewhat challenges as well that are faced by the professionals and by the employees to whom they impact actually. So we've put them up in the poll section. I would request the team to kindly take the polls live now. And the questions that you vote most for will be now asked in the Q&A section that we're just about to enter into in a few minutes. And we'll also take your questions, and I see lots of them in the question and answer section. So it doesn't mean that you will not have the chance to ask what you want. Because of the paucity of time, I do see there are lots of questions. Just go through it, go through the list. And if you believe what you're asking has been asked by someone else, just vote that. And whoever has the most votes, we'll ask those questions from the question answer section and a few from the poll section that you already see right now in front of you. And I really appreciate the fact that there's so many diverse backgrounds reflected here today in the audience. And this is the beauty. When you say you're networking, you're actually communicating and learning with so many different people, right? I see people here from the graphics and fashion fraternity, from textile designing. That's amazing. Yeah, and banking, FMCGs. Yes, that's great. So do we have the polls going? Brilliant. Okay, so as we move on, and thank you for sharing all those LinkedIn profiles. And as we move on to our next session and we welcome our next panelists, I would like to request that we have this polls finished, or are people still polling in? Okay, people are still polling in. That's great. So I would like to now call upon Madiha Khalid. She's Director HR at Shell, and Mr. Rizwan Dalia, the Chief People Officer at K Electric. Can we have them on the stage, please? They're all on the stage. Brilliant. Hi, both of you. How are you? Good afternoon.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. I'm well. How are you?
Assalamualaikum, Fasi. How are you both? And how is everyone?
Yes, Alhamdulillah, all well, and I hope both of you are keeping safe and sound. And today you're enjoying the summit, and you have heard some, I'm sure, great insights, and lots of questions are piling up here that I would be now sending your way.
Excellent. Looking forward.
Thank you so much. So let's now start with the polls that we have here. And clearly, the question that has been voted most to be asked for is the challenges for adopting agile framework, agile working model, and the potential solutions. May I ask you, Madiha, to please answer this? What are those challenges in the agile working model that the HR world faces?
Sure. So I think before we talk about an agile working model, we have to talk about an agile mindset first, because models can only be implemented or can be adopted if the mindset is there. And I think one thing that this pandemic has taught us is the agility of not just people, but also businesses and the environment that we're in. So the challenge, obviously, I think the first challenge would be whether the culture or whether the mindset is agile, or is even recognizing that there is a need to be more agile. That's the first challenge, I would say. Once you've recognized that that challenge is there, I think the biggest other challenge is the investment in technology that agility requires. Because you can't have an agile model without having the right IT platform support that. So again, giving an example of COVID-19, we had no choice but to work from home. We were in a lockdown situation. And if companies or organizations didn't have the technological backbone to enable employees to connect from home, then of course, those were some of the biggest challenges that they were facing, that how do they get their people on the same network as the rest of the organization. So I would say in a nutshell, बहुत सारे challenges हैं, मगर सबसे पहला वाला mindset का है. I think until companies are pushed and forced into looking at new and different models, it doesn't come naturally unless you are in a sector which is primarily driven by agility. like your tech sector or your mobile sector, then that's something that would come naturally, but most likely it will not. So the first step is the culture piece. The second step is that you have the capital and the investment, and then the belief to invest in the technology that supports agile working. Those would be, I would say, the two biggest challenges. And I'll leave the most difficult part of the question for my partner here, Rizwan. Maybe he can talk about some of the potential solutions.
And before you answer this, Rizwan, I have this question that Madiha has now sort of highlighted during her response. Who is responsible for this mindset? How do you bring in this agile mindset? Is it the HR responsibility? Agile framework and agile mindset so far, but talk of the town for the tech world. But that's no more the case. It is being now practiced by multinationals, by local companies across different sectors and industries. So how do you instill this mindset? Does it have to start from the top? Which functional domain has to initiate this? And then how do you ensure that it is practiced? So some challenges along those lines as well, if you'd like to add to your answer, please.
Yeah, thank you, Fasi, and thank you, Madhya, for this opportunity. So I actually agree with you that it comes from the mindset first. And regarding the potential solutions, I would, for one, would want the organization to be more imaginative about what they do. And just like the fiction movies we see, whatever we saw 15, 20 years back is now reality. In our childhood, we saw one person talking to his car through his watch, and now we all do it. So businesses and specifically HR have to be imaginative about what has to come. And that is, again, comes to the mindset. And if you have the right kind of mindset, and you welcome the imaginative thinking from the employees across the organization, then obviously it becomes easy to get the organization ready for the future. And for again, you're right, it comes from the top, and the leadership, and obviously HR is part of it. The top leadership has to be cognizant of the fact that the world has actually changed. A number of things which we used to think as some kind of fiction have all become reality, and the leadership has to drive all this. And the potential solutions, yes, it's not only IT who has to enable the organization. The users actually will have to ask for it, will have to demand for it. Just like people demand headcount or training or other things from HR, the whole organization should be in fact demanding for it, and not waiting for the respective departments to come out with solution. Everybody will have to work towards it and contribute.
Excellent. Thank you. And I believe you've summed it well, that first is the mindset, then comes infrastructure or the wherewithal to instill that mindset and to make sure that you have the capacity. And then comes this policy, which will bring the change. And the policy has to have the component of persistence and perseverance in it, and the ability to be flexible, to be adaptive, and to be open to take on these challenges. Speaking of challenges, one of the greater challenges that we face today is that we're going back to work. There was this huge, big jolt of COVID, which gave us a huge nudge. There are different theories about it, whether is it a paradigm shift? Has actually the behavior of organizations towards their employees in looking at the unit of economics towards that dollar amount, or now realizing that it is that human which creates that unit of economics? Has that shift happened? And as people are now going back to work, offices are opening up, there's a shift in terms of the policies, in terms of the culture, and there will be certain regulations as well. And clearly that is now the most voted poll question as well. What are the expected trends in HR management post-COVID? So I would request again, Rizwan, you to please, if you could answer, and then I'll go to Madhya.
So again, it goes back to the mindset and how we react to the offices opening up again. And the more you keep telling people that the pandemic is not over and there can be a relapse, still, in fact, in Pakistan, we see people not taking much care now as far as public places are concerned. So the general tendency, or maybe the tendency in Pakistan, is that we forget very quickly, and we have short-term memories. So if we want to change, if we want to ever change the way we work, then we'll have to train our mind that maybe the pandemic is for life, even if it goes out, but the mindset or the way or the new things it gave us are for life. And if we have to stay true to the commitments we made during the pandemic time, then we'll have to think like the pandemic is not over, and the new practices and the new things that came in our life, which were efficient, which were good, and which we always wanted to happen, should not go away. So this is one thing that should happen going forward. And again, you talked about policy, so I just wanted to touch upon that the agility also demands frequent change in policies as well. So gone are the days when you would develop a policy or a procedure and it is there for the next 5 or 10 years. That's not going to happen. So the agility should also come in terms of policy making as well, and whereby the role of HR is very important, that they have to be adaptive of the change and make as many changes as possible, which is reflective of the challenges. And again, the way most of the good organization, caring organization have looked towards their employees. Yes, the last 5-6 months, in fact, were good. A number of organizations like KE, like Shell, like other employers have shown a lot of empathy towards their workers, their low workers, their executives, people working in the field, people working at home. And that should remain, that we should always think that, fine, this is something good that we have learned. And as HR, fine, there are priorities, there are other challenges, there are business priorities. However, this is for HR to ensure that, to keep reminding the top leadership mostly, that the good things that we have done, that should continue. The way we looked at our people during this pandemic, that is the way to look at them for the whole life.
Excellent. That's a very, very nice and thoughtful way to look at to the employees, at the team who actually contributes towards everything that a business is known to be successful for. Madiha, some great challenges that have been shared, by Rizwan, but there are many others as well, I'm sure, that you guys have faced. How do you address this? For instance, people are concerned, as he's saying, they're going back to work. What if they catch it again? What if they carry something back home with some person who might be vulnerable, parents or anyone else at home? The other thing is that people are not taking it seriously. Fair enough. What about many of the challenges in terms of data privacy, security that were highlighted when people were being monitored remotely? And then motivating the team who was actually working remotely was also a bigger challenge. Now they're coming back, but many people have said, different statistics and surveys showed that the productivity increased during work from home, which means fluff was identified. What was fluff? Was the social interaction, the human touch identified as fluff? Was people meeting in different short intervals, sipping coffee together and having tea was fluff? Is it not necessary? Many of the challenges. So yeah, your take on this and your expectations as people coming back to work.
Thank you, Fasi. And ये topic इतना rich है कि इसके ऊपर अगर हम एक separate summit भी करें तो I don't think we'll be able to cover it. I saw some of the questions that came in, and I think there were about 300 questions submitted, जिसमें से almost 200 were related to COVID and different shades of COVID. It wasn't the same question, but I think कि इसके ऊपर बहुत कुछ हम share कर सकते हैं और एक दूसरे से सीख सकते हैं. तो आपका सवाल specific है about staff returning to the office, and I would say कि HR का role हमेशा से बहुत important रहा है in setting up organizations for success. हम हमेशा ये बात करते हैं कि digitalization का era आ रहा है, AI का era आ रहा है, analytics है, and HR is no longer going to be relevant. But I would say that HR is and HR will always remain relevant because we have a duty of care. And duty of care not just to the organization but also to the employees. And when we talk about duty of care, तो जो lockdown या जो work from home के अंदर the role that we played to show duty of care to our employees, the same has to continue when we are welcoming back to the site, which means
Excellent.
that HR has to drive with the health officials that they have within the company, with the top management, with the line leaders, to ensure कि जो हमारे offices हैं वो एक safe environment है for people to come back to work and be productive at work. And for those who still do not wish to come for whatever reason, there are working mothers, there are people who are caregivers for their extended family and can genuinely not join back the workforce. उनको flexibility दी जाए कि वो work from home continue करें. Meaning working from office should remain optional as long as people believe that the risk of getting infected is there. So the first step is obviously how do you prepare your work site so that you eliminate the chances of other people contracting the virus, people not infecting each other, then making sure that when people don't follow the rules or break the rules, there is coaching and guidance for them because that helps in keeping everyone safe. The third part is what about those people who don't want to come for whatever reason, child care support nahi hai, daycare office ka band hai, XYZ, those should then allowed to be comfortable to operate from home. And if they are working
Very nice.
from home, then they should be given the right equipment and the tools to be able to be productive from home. और इसमें आपने बहुत अच्छी बात की थी about policy making. And रिजवान ने भी कहा कि policy जो है वो सारी जिंदगी के लिए नहीं बनती है because then that becomes a Bible or a religious book. Policies are supposed to be flexible and supposed to meet the demands of the time. And मैं आपको बहुत एक real example दूं. जब ये work from home हुआ हमारे बहुत सारे employees की request आई कि जी हमें अपनी हमारी चेयर और हमारी टेबल्स एंड इक्विपमेंट जो है वो ergonomic है ऑफिस का और घर के अंदर we don't have that ergonomic equipment. एंड उस वक्त शेल ने एक बहुत टफ स्टांस लिया था कि हम ऑफिस इक्विपमेंट घर नहीं भेजेंगे because when we have to welcome people back then it will be very difficult to keep track of कि कौन सी टेबल और कौन सी चेयर कहाँ गई है. But just a few months into the lockdown, we re-looked at that stance and then we allowed for people, we gave an allowance basically. First, people had to do an ergonomic survey to determine whether they need a chair or a table or a big monitor or whatever they need. And on that basis, there was an allowance given to people कि आप जाएं जाके अपनी चीजें खरीदें, which will help you do your job from home. And then you can maintain that office. There was no expectation कि ये आपने return करना है once you go back to the office. So that's what I mean about HR playing the role of doing the duty of care, and the duty of care continues for the employees. Once they are back at work, whether they are working from home, and the duty of care to the company to make sure that the company succeeds and is robust enough to compete in the future. Very long answer, but ये topic बहुत interesting है, so difficult to stop.
I absolutely agree with you because there is so much that has to be done. At the end of the day, we're working for humans, right? And duty of care, as you mentioned, is a very important aspect that has to look at so many different things. It was not a regular work from home where you could go and take a cozy corner in your home and turn it into an office and go and say, hey, I'm more productive than I was ever before, because there was no domestic support available. Your kids are home, your spouse is home, and everybody's working, everybody's doing something. Your kids are taking their classes online on Zoom. You have more responsibilities than they were before. And now somehow people around you, your colleagues, your co-workers, other stakeholders assume you're available all the time because you're online. You're never before online in the cyber world than you are now. So very different challenges, and agree there's a topic which we can go on and on into lots of depths and debate about it. But I really, really appreciate lots of people asking the questions of whether the pendulum has swung, whether the paradigm shift has happened in terms of the behavior. And clearly this is very important that it's not happened entirely, but probably a hybrid of some people working from home some days and some going back at work. This hybrid would exist mostly now. Moving on to the question section, we have lots of interesting questions that people have upvoted for. I'm going to ask a few. And those of you who really want your questions to be asked, make sure you upvote the ones that you find more interesting. And before I move on to the last session that I have, the one key takeaway, I'll ask a few questions here. So one question which I believe is very interesting is, which initiative did you feel was not successful and needed to be tweaked or changed to increase employee effectiveness and business in this situation? This question is by Zara from Telenor. Zara, if I may say that what Madiha just answered is a response to this question, right? Because what they just said about the ergonomic furniture being not available earlier and the policy being an adaptive and ever-changing document was evolved actually to address that concern. Would you like to answer this, Rizwan, if you have any initiative that you feel was successful, not successful, and needed to be tweaked?
Yeah, we have many offices across the city, and most of them are required to be operated 24 hours a day, 24 hours a day. And there are staff canteens there, and most of our labor have their food there. So initially, there was a talk that we give a certain allowance to them and encourage them to get their food from their houses. However, very quickly, within a week or so, we came to realize that no, if this is not full care. We are just giving money and allowing them to do whatever they want with the money, and some people will get it from home and some will not. So the ultimate decision was that all across the city we operate around 40 canteens, staff canteens for our people, mostly labor, and we provided free of cost. We started providing free of cost food to them 24 hours across the city, and that was a major game changer in my view, because the employees, and especially those who were in the field, and at the most challenging times, the initial lockdown period, when everybody was afraid of the situation and getting infected, the most challenging times were there, and the people really appreciated that gesture from the company, and we felt as leadership really good by providing that facility to all the labor.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mention here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for highlighting. That's such a great gesture. So many companies brought in this value, as you guys were earlier mentioning, of empathy as something that every company or corporate cherishes, and you want your employees to be part of it. And probably that's the reason as well that productivity increased a lot, because people actually felt more being part of the organization than they were ever before. So this is very nice. Another question which is very interesting, and a challenge that actually all of us face, is the performance management. How do you monitor performance? How do you rate this when you are not actually physically present? And many a times this was actually from the optics. Jo dikhta hai wo bikhta hai. So people are busy, there are meetings, there are lots of things happening. You're doing lots of marketing activities, you're doing promos, you're doing events. Nothing of that sort is happening. Now people are online, they're in lots of Zoom meetings, they're doing emails in and out. How do you manage and measure performances? Different people have different approaches. Some had KPIs and OKRs already in place. Some had somewhat more tangible measures actually to measure performance. So the question is that performance management system for work from home employees is a challenge. How to cope up with it, and what tools are available? Madiha, would you like to please answer this first?
Yeah, sure. So I'll reiterate, Fasi, what you've said. What gets measured gets done. And
Yep.
I see a lot of organizations measuring the time that people are spending at the workplace as a direct correlation of performance management. So if you say 9 to 5 hours aapne office mein guzarne hai, that is meant to be a measure of how good somebody has performed or how great that they've done. So what will happen in a scenario like that is that people will give you the time. They'll clock in 9 o'clock and they'll clock out at 5 o'clock. But what they do during that time is still debatable. So one of the best models for performance management is actually having very clear and very simple alignment on what the individual needs to deliver during the year. And I believe that the simpler it is and the more easier it is to remember, the easier the conversation on performance would be, and you wouldn't look for other ambiguous areas to determine performance. So I can give an example of Shell, and that's such a simple model that any company can adopt that. We have a model which is called 5+3. 5 are your core job related goals for the year, and 3 are your foundational goals. You can say table stake. For example, the safety and well-being of employees, or ethics and ethical practices, etc. So 5+3 in total would be the 8 things you need to deliver in the year. You have a crisp conversation with your boss to say, these are the deliverables. What does good look like? Meaning, what is the success criteria? If I've done it, how will I know that I've done it well? So that's the on target measure. And then what would it look like if I've overachieved that target? So let's say agar meri target hai that I have to induct more women in the workplace. My on target goal would look like that 50% of my hiring is all women. That's on target. But let's say if I'm talking about an ambition or over exceeding that, so let's say 80%, if I'm able to deliver 80% of my new hires to be women, then I've overachieved my target. And it has to be that simplistic and that clear to both the line manager and then the employee. And once you've had that commitment conversation, then it's easy to keep a check. Either you do it mid-year or you do it every quarter. Depends on what the culture is like on performance management. But I think that's one of the best ways to drive performance management. If you drive performance management based on the number of hours the employee has been online, and you constantly keep a look at your laptop, oh, meri team online hai ki nahi, and if they're not online, then that means that they're not doing their job. Then I think that it's going to be a very unhealthy space, and we're never going to be able to measure productivity. So if you hold the individual accountable, you have a clear conversation, and then you have a clear conversation when those things have not been delivered. I think that's the best ways to drive performance management. And it has to work both ways, meaning you reward the individual when they've done well, and then you have a tough conversation when the individual has not met the objectives. But the starting point has to be, the objectives have to be clear between the person and their line manager in order to drive the right outcomes. That's one of the models I can share right away.
Thank you. Rizwan, your thoughts on this?
Just adding on to what Madhya said, I also feel that the last 5-6 months have also highlighted one of the burning issues is that how the line managers take it. And a number of organizations have done trainings on that, have done coaching of the line managers, and this is still for me at KE even is a major challenge, and something we would like to do and continue is how to develop that kind of skills in the managers and change that kind of a mindset which requires their subordinates to just spend 9 to 6 and be available, be visible. So they have to be given the right kind of coaching and training, which should make them able to handle people working from home. And even when people are returning to office, the way they evaluate and the way they give feedback and the way they evaluate performance should now change, and that should be should go to the then on the presence of somebody. So that is one thing which I think for the HR fraternity and specifically for us at KE to do is to prepare. We have a large population, so prepare our line managers to be able to measure performance on these bases.
The performance management and how to measure, and very nice what Madhya said, what you measure can be improved, what you don't measure you cannot improve. So what we moved on towards is actually more deliverables. Focus is on deliverables. Focus is not how they are executed right now, and focus is that how and when, how efficiently with minimum resources and the use of time something is done, and something is done considerably well, and then the execution part of it now is mostly left to that manager or to that executive in charge. So I believe lots of things have changed, and I really like that fact that Lots of people have asked the questions on these 3 areas that we have discussed already. For those of you who have been throughout the summit from the first minute, or those who have joined just before this, or you joined in this conversation, everyone, when you leave a conference that you attend a seminar, you attend a meeting you go to, you have one thing that you would remember. What would be that one thing from this summit? Think hard and then write it there in the chat section. Let's see what is those key takeaways that you will take with you from this moment onwards. And this is that actionable insight that we're talking about. Let it not be a conversation that you attended on a weekend because you were curious or you were excited or you just wanted to network, online virtual network. Let it be around what is that one thing that you want to do, you want to practice, you have learned or you have been inspired with, that you will now put into action as you go back to work. Let's start seeing those as they're piling up. Yep, keep them coming. And I'm going to go through these. So belief, love, and passion. Okay, motivational, energetic information, dedicated. Known is unknown. Every hurdle is an opportunity. Very important. Very nicely done, Nayab. Agile mindset is important. Focus, consultation, communication. Yeah, over communicate. That's what I learned as well. There is no second thought about it. The more transparent you are, the more in touch with your team, with your supervisors, with everyone, your key stakeholders you are in this virtual world now, actually you are taking the uncertainty factor down. People are more in touch, I believe, than they were before, because you're doing lots of meetings, briefs and debriefs, and this is very important. So yes, over communicate. Empathy, upskilling, what you start measuring gets done, very important. So yeah, so probably you guys will go back and start putting in some kind of KPIs or OKRs and start monitoring those deliverables. And there's a methodology behind it. There is some method to this madness, and there is a ton of literature available online for you to go through and learn from it. Lots of people are saying agile. That's very nice. Performance management, very nice. Okay. There's a need within the HR fraternity to transform and demonstrate a learner mindset. Well, I believe not just HR fraternity, any place, any function that you are. As long as you are perpetually curious, you're open to learn, you will evolve. That's the law of nature, right? Everything is changing, all of us. So do the businesses and processes and performance systems. There's nothing which is perfect. Everything evolves. So 5+3 rule is quite insightful. Thank you. Clarity in every aspect of business, particularly communication. Being social while being socially distant. Very nice. Duty of care for all. Okay, change is the only permanent thing, so be ready and adopt it ASAP. Good. Not only employees, but for all stakeholders, direct and indirect. So this is very nice. All of you who are putting in all these great comments about your key takeaways. So don't just put this right there because you heard something. Go and explore it. Go and connect with these wonderful people, the speakers that you actually heard today, and learn more from them. Learn from people who have done this, who have practiced this, and you might fail at it, but you should be open to embrace it and go and experiment. It may or may not work. As we just saw the example from Shell, that earlier they had a different policy, and then they moved and changed the policy actually to adapt with the changing times, the changing demands actually. And so before I actually move on to the next session, and I invite Zahid Saab to come on the stage, I would like to know, and please keep those key takeaways coming. So this doesn't mean that you shouldn't stop writing, because whatever you are writing is also getting registered in the minds of others. So it's very highly likely that I have not thought of many key takeaways that you have thought of, but you have written it there, and now I'm registering that in my mind as well. Oh yeah, soft skills, very important. Oh yes, how you can be as an advisor to many of your peers. So moving on, I would like to thank the honorable panelists for sharing their pearls of wisdom. And with your wisdom and experience, I believe you all had a lot of opportunity of learning of different ways you're tackling these challenges. So thank you, Mediha and Rizwan, for joining us. And thank you, wonderful audience. That's it from my session for the time being. And I now move on and I hand over the baton to Zahid Saab. And now we have a short video clip as well, I believe, for you that will be now played. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, once again. I think in such events, maintaining the engagement, that too for an extended time, is always a challenge, but I'm glad that everyone is taking part quite enthusiastically, and there's a lot of tangible takeaways from this session. Before we move to the closure, I would like to pay tribute to everyone who helped in fighting the crisis, who helped in maintaining the supply chains, who helped each one of us to survive. So the quality guru, Edward Deming, says that learning is not compulsory, neither is survival. So we are going to compile all the thoughts, all the actionable takeaways of today's session into a white paper, and hopefully you'll find it in your inbox in a week time. What next? Please mark your calendar for 14 October, World Standards Day. It is celebrated around the globe. This time we have a unique element for you, and that is the introduction of the global HR standards. The standards which we have been able to develop with the help of the HR fraternity while working in last 10 years in the different parts of the world, including United States, UK, Germany, France, Netherlands, Italy, Singapore, Indonesia, and Australia. We would like to compliment the efforts of those who developed these standards and those who supported us in this process. With this, I want to end this summit, and I would like to conclude with the final remarks in the form of the extreme thanks to the wonderful speakers for sharing their wonderful insight, valued participants for sparing time to be together, and also our distinguished partner, AM Consulting, for designing everything very intelligently and executing in a best possible way. Take care of yourself. For most of you, very good evening. For some of you, good morning and good afternoon. Bye-bye.